All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the results of this past weekend's Thailand Pro 212 competition. The reason why this competition was so interesting is one of the bodybuilders there was going viral over the past few days, Ping Yun Long. This is the bodybuilder that everybody was talking about having a crazy classic physique, crazy lines, crazy V-taper. He posted this posing video just a couple days before the show, looking crazy. And to everybody's surprise, he's not a classic physique competitor. He's a 212 competitor. He just also happens to be an extremely aesthetic 212 competitor. But he wound up winning that Thailand show, which qualified him for the 2022 Mr. Olympia. So this is a guy that was relatively new, relatively unheard of up until this point. Made a lot of noise with some of these recent physique updates, and now we're going to be seeing him on the Olympia stage in 212, which is a good segue into the next story here. Derek Lunsford. Derek posting a physique update / posing video of his own today, where I think a lot of people are talking about this because of the fact that he looks extremely big in this update. Again, he is 212 Mr. Olympia, but there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not Derek will make the switch to men's open bodybuilding. And in this posing video, it certainly looks like he could potentially have the size, or definitely have the size, to be competitive as an open pro at the Olympia. And I can also confirm that it's not just in this video. I saw Derek and talked to Derek at the Arnold Classic, and in person, he looks just as crazy. He looks just as wide. He looks gigantic for a 212 bodybuilder. I also got the impression that Derek himself might be interested in making the switch to men's open bodybuilding. Now, I'm pretty sure he's going to defend his 212 Olympia title this year at least. But in the future, why not make the switch? Honestly, Derek has one of my favorite physiques in bodybuilding today, just overall, across any category. If you look at this video from the Olympia, just the shape that Derek brings. I don't mean condition, even though he was in really good shape. Shout out to Honey Rambod. But the shape and the structure of his physique, the lines that he has, small waist V-taper, almost looks like a super jacked up classic guy. Kind of like what we talked about with the first story. But you got to be honest, man. I mean, look at this guy's physique that he brought to the Olympia stage, working with Honey Rambod, who is the same guy that works with Hadi Chupin, bringing Hadi in consistently crazy condition on the Olympia stage. Why wouldn't we want to see Derek Lunsford in a men's open lineup if we can see a shorter guy like Hadi Chupin? Granted, I'd say overall Hadi's probably more muscular for his frame comparatively to Derek, pound for pound. But keep in mind, Hadi came from 212. Bonac came from 212. Why couldn't Derek Lunsford be the next guy that's a very dominant men's open pro coming from 212? I don't see any reason why he couldn't be. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about Hafthor Bjornsson. Specifically, who will Hafthor's next opponent be? So Thor put up this post, and he said he's basically asking his audience who they think he should fight next. Well, actually, he's quite literally asking them that. In a lot of the top comments, and his pinned comment, actually, from Jason Poston was suggesting Logan Paul, which is a comment that I saw several times, and that is the only comment, by the way, that Hafthor pinned on this post. Now, this is interesting because I can tell you guys for a fact that this is a conversation that has already been brought to Logan Paul's team. In fact, I was even told that Logan Paul's boxing coach was against it because he thought that Thor would hurt Logan if they fought. And Thor and Logan are in contact. They did a podcast together. They've hung out together. They know each other. The teams talk. Logan and Thor were both guests at the Arnold Classic this year. The Arnold Classic almost put on the Eddie versus Thor fight. This is not a fight that is outside the realm of possibility. This is something that absolutely could happen and absolutely has been talked about. It has been discussed between the teams. Right now, I don't think there is any official plan to do the fight or when the fight would be. But it is something that's being talked about and has been talked about. And I think there is still a lot of interest in that fight. And the fact that Thor even posted that up and the fact that he specifically pinned that comment, I think is interesting. Now, there is a lot of talk about Martin Ford potentially fighting Thor after he fights the Iranian Hawk. That is assuming he wins that fight relatively easily based on everything that we've seen going into that fight it would suggest that there would be a low probability of Martin losing. Now, Martin is closer to Thor's height than Eddie was, so it could be a little bit more fair from a height standpoint, from a size standpoint overall. Now, if we're talking about Eddie versus Thor, we have to mention an update every time as to whether or not the bets have been paid or addressed at all by Eddie. There was a bet for $10,000 with Larry Wheels, suggested by Eddie. There was a bet for $200,000 to charity with Thor, suggested by Eddie. And there's also a bet to get a tattoo of the other man's name if you lose, suggested by Thor, which Eddie accepted. Eddie has posted about 3 or 4 times since the fight and has not addressed or acknowledged any of these bets since the fight, and we have not seen him speak since the night of the fight. We have not seen his face in a video talking. So like I said before, I just feel that if Eddie had won, he would be constantly memeing Thor on social media or pushing him, pressuring him to address the bets, to say, okay, I'm going to pay whatever. Thor still hasn't picked a charity, so that one we can give Eddie a pass on for now. The tattoo, I don't really think there's much excuse to not have gotten it already, or to at least have said, okay, I'll get it. And the $10,000 in the grand scheme of things should be relatively inconsequential to Eddie to just wire that money over to Larry immediately, or put up a post that says the money's on its way or something. Because if you guys remember when Eddie first extended the charity bet to Thor, one of his comments to Thor was even that Thor took too long to answer the bet. And in Eddie's response, he was like, look how quickly I answered your counteroffer. Look how quickly I answered you. And now everybody that's defending Eddie, even though the comment section on his last post, which was a Mother's Day post, is overwhelmingly get the tattoo. Are you getting the tattoo? Where's the tattoo? Pay up. All that stuff. Those are all the top comments on his post. But my thing is, even if he doesn't pay these bets right away or get the tattoo right away, I think he could at least address it right away and say, yes, I saw Larry and Thor's video they put out. Yes, I am getting the tattoo. Yes, I will pay up. Yes, I'm still participating in these bets, because Larry and Thor, they're basically asking Eddie in that video, where's the money? Pay up. Where's the tattoo? So the ball's in Eddie's court is the point. I still do think overall that Eddie is probably a man of his word that's going to honor these bets. But it has been over a week now since the fight, and it does kind of feel like at this point he's either ignoring the whole bet situation or at least avoiding it. Because like I said, if you look at the comment sections of anything he posts, it's all anybody is talking about. It's at the forefront of all his fans' minds. So for him not to say anything does feel a bit odd now that it's been over a week. Now, next up in the news, a physique update from Justin Rodriguez at 6.5 weeks out from the Indy Pro. After what has been a hell of an impressive past few months for him, a great beginning to the season, he ended last year on a top 10 Olympia, placing 4th place at the Arnold Classic. He was still first call-out at this year's Arnold Classic. He came in a little bit off at the finals, which cost him a couple of placings. It bumped him down from where I believe he was going to be top 3, but it bumped him down like 2 placings. To a pretty close runner-up at the Boston Pro to William Bonac just a few weeks later. And it seems like he's just going to continue prepping forever because he's going straight into the Indy Pro. Then he also said in his comment section on Instagram after the Indy Pro, he is going to do the New York Pro as well. So we could really see a hell of an impressive year from Justin Rodriguez. I think there is a possibility. I'm not saying this is likely, but I think there is a possibility he could win both of those shows, the Indy Pro and the New York Pro. I would not rule it out. I will not be shocked if Justin could win those shows back to back. And so far, we haven't really heard of any other big names doing those shows. We've heard about Blessing. We've heard about Charles Griffin. I think Steve Kuklo might jump in that Indy Pro. But for the most part, a lot of these guys are already qualified for the Olympia. A lot of the top guys from the Arnold, a lot of the top guys from the Olympia. I don't know. I think Justin's got a real shot at making a big statement and possibly winning both those shows, or at least being in the conversation for a win. And the final story that I've got for you guys today, a series of physique updates from Hassan Mustafa, looking for some redemption this season. 14 weeks out from the Orlando Pro. Like I said, he didn't have the greatest season last year. I think he's arguably one of the most muscular guys in the IFBB. This guy is stacked. This guy's huge. But we really need to see top condition from him. And I believe he even posted a couple days ago, before this update, he posted a physique update where he said his main goal this year, his main focus is crazy conditioning, better conditioning than he's ever had before. So that's good. I mean, that's kind of the similar situation that we had with Big Ramy. He was so focused on being Big Ramy and coming in crazy big that I think the conditioning got put on the back burner. So I think it's always good when you see a massive dude like Hassan at least acknowledge the fact, I'm already big. I need to come in shredded. I don't need to be any bigger. Hassan doesn't need to be 1 pound heavier than he is. He's by far, him and like Nick Walker, I think, are like pound for pound some of the most stacked dudes by height and weight in the IFBB. They're crazy big. And plus, it's so early, I don't even know anyone else that's in this Orlando Pro lineup yet. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about all the stories. Specifically, curious to hear your thoughts on Hafthor versus Logan Paul, Eddie Hall paying back the bets. Let me know in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you did, in fact, enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.